Hey guys, welcome back to the lab. Today at the bench we have a very interesting item. This oversized portfolio with a decorative silver grate is owned by someone I went to school with. She reached out to me because she wanted to be able to handle the item and display it in her home. Her goal was to have the item cleaned and put back together. As you can see, the portfolio is lined with watered silk that has shattered. The portfolio was built to contain two items: a hand-drawn and watercolor Medal of Appreciation and street sign schematic in one folio, and these items go with a certificate recognizing the recipient of the French Medal of Gratitude, and that's a World War I era award that was earned by civilians. Shout out to Wikipedia for giving me that information. As you can see, the inside of the portfolio is completely detached, and it will be replaced entirely with an acid and lignin-free option. So in order to remove the decorative silver grate, I had to remove these tiny number 0 screws. As you can see, they are screwed into the wood that makes up the core of the cover. As you can also see, at least half the screws are missing. They are silver-plated brass, and after a discussion with my client, we decided to replace all of them with new solid brass screws. There's also marking that indicates this silver piece was made by Howard & Company in New York. The internet indicates that the company went out of business in the early 1920s. You can also see that because screws are missing, the silver piece has been free to flex. There are a couple gentle warps in the metal near the bottom of the piece. So now it's time to remove the tiny screws with a tiny screwdriver. I sent the original screws back to the client with the finished portfolio. Yep, these screws are really tiny. So unfortunately, the core of the front cover is composed of 4 thin pieces of wood that had delicately carved overlapping areas that fit together. Originally, the overlaps were glued, and the entire thing was backed with more glue and cloth. The delicate overlaps were, in fact, too delicate and had cracked at some point. The adhered cloth had also detached from the wood, so surprise, the screws were the only thing holding the wood together. And this wasn't a catastrophic failure, as you can see in the video, but I could tell that everything on the inside flexed much more than it should. So I wound up removing the paper on the inside of the cover and stabilizing the wooden pieces. The addition of a complete set of screws at the end simply reinforced the stabilization. Alright, now that the grate is off, you can see the quantity of silver polish and silver oxide that have been pushed up under this grate every time the silver has been cleaned in the last century. I'm approaching the cleaning of this item as if this is a salvage situation. There's so much to remove and it's so drying to this leather. If you've ever gotten silver polish on your skin, you know. The other consideration is that this leather has a very pronounced grain. It's craggy and it's basically had a slurry of extremely fine powdery sludge pressed into it over and over again. Here's the back of the silver grate, and the silver is easier to clean, but I just wanted to show you the buildup. So I'm setting up to remove as much of the silver polish and silver oxide as possible. I tested all reasonable go-to conservation cleaning options, and none achieved a satisfactory result. So I finally tested a non-conservation approved option. Remember that this is really an unusual situation to have over a century of silver polish crushed into leather. So after testing and waiting several days to see if there were any short-term problems or repercussions, I opted for Obanoff's heavy-duty LP. LP stands for leather preservative, but this product is not explicitly designed for cleaning antique books in a conservation or preservation situation. It was explicitly designed for wildland firefighters to remove and keep ash, among other things, out of the pores of their leather boots. Now, this isn't a completely different application to what I'm using it for in this video, which is removing superfine, drying, and abrasive powder from leather. Because Obanoff's isn't a conservation-tested product, there haven't been any artificial aging tests done on it. I cannot guarantee that this product won't do something bizarre to this leather in 50 years, but, like I mentioned, I couldn't find a conservation-tested option that was effective in this very specific application. I absolutely read up on Obanoff's ingredients. It contains no petroleum, solvents, paraffin, mink oil, or salts. It does contain beeswax, propolis, and natural oils. So please do not put this product on your expensive or precious books because you saw me do it on the internet. This is a very, very specific application I am using this product for. I will say Open-Offs is great for modern boots though. So Open-Offs is too solid to work with at room temperature, but it softens greatly with body heat, and that's why I'm working with it on the back of my hand. In the context of conservation, I am scrubbing aggressively with a natural hair brush on this item. The goal is to work the superfine, dried, powdery silver polish and silver oxide up out of the grain of the leather and into the Open-Offs itself. Then I take a cotton round and firmly wipe up the remaining dirty Open-Offs off the leather. And between each area, I scrub as much of the dirty Open-Offs out of my brush as possible onto a hand towel. I've sped the cleaning up 1000%. If you find it mesmerizing, then enjoy. If you want to skip ahead to the next chapter in the video, that's fine too. I'm probably going to upload an ASMR version of just the cleaning, probably in real time. So if you like ASMR or just white noise while you're doing something else, you can see if that video is for you. So as you can see, the majority of the powdery residue was successfully removed. I went back later and did a second removal in areas that needed it. So here's all the gunk that came off on the towel and the cotton rounds, and of course that's pretty satisfying. And I've included a few before shots to quickly remind you how it looked before I started. And here's a shot of the silver after I cleaned it. I also lacquered it to prevent the application of silver polish in the near future at least. And here's the rebuilt portfolio ready to go home. I recovered the inner document folios with a red long fiber paper and a French marbled paper that ties in all the colors of this document. Now that the item is done, I am wearing gloves to handle the silver just as a precaution. It's lacquered, so the salt on my skin shouldn't come into contact with the surface of the silver, but I spent a lot of time on this item and I really just wanted to be extra careful. So the other thing I noticed was some transfer of ink and color from one side of the folded documents to the other. I sent them home with long fiber paper interleaving, especially for the vibration of the ride on the UPS truck. All right, guys, that's it. I hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to ask any questions you have below and subscribe to support more videos. Thanks.